Hi, today we're going to recap the 2013 romantic crime film Horns. Let's get started. It's a story about these two lovebirds, Iggy and Marin. His eyes were locked into Marin's when he said he's gonna love her forever. At this present time, we found Iggy lying drunk on the floor. He wakes up and reaches for the music box with a trembling body. He listens to it and recalls cherished moments with the perfect woman of his life who has been murdered some time ago. He looks out the window and there is a crowd of news channel reporters cursing him and sloganeering to punish him in repentance for committing Marin's murder. When Iggy came out of the house, the reporters teased him with painful questions about that murder and how he could do this to her. He replied back and rode to his parents' house. All the way, he was calling his childhood friend Lee to meet him at his parents' house in half an hour. At his parents' house, his father advised him not to talk about anything in front of reporters and must seek a lawyer, to which Iggy refused and said he would rather stick with Lee. His mother interrupts and says whatever happened to Marin, she's sorry for it, but he will still be their son. This irritated Iggy as it shows some kind of doubt in their minds that he can be guilty. His brother Terry follows him blowing a horn and tries to console him when Lee joins them and gives them a couple of bad news. First, the lab in Tacoma was destroyed, where Marin samples were kept and analyzed. Secondly, there was some new witness in this case. This frustrated Iggy even more. To relax, he went to the bar where he usually visits and ordered a drink. The bartender asks him to leave because his other customers didn't want him there. But when Iggy's childhood friend Glenna, who had a crush on him, appears, she offers him a drink, comforts him, and asks him to join them later that night, to which he responded he would rather love to stay alone. It's late at night and people gather to memorize Marin. Right at the crime scene, it was a house on the tree where the couple used to spend time. Marin's father vents his frustrations about how he is feeling now and criticizes Iggy for murdering her innocent daughter. While they were paying tribute to her, Iggy was right up there in the house and lit up a lighter to join them with tears in his eyes. He descends after everyone has left, walks around her, photographs, and cries. He pees on the candles in a fit of rage, blaming God for not saving his Marin and destroyed the memorial. It is when Glenna shows up and stops him from doing anything worse. The following morning, Iggy awakens in bed with Glenna and discovers astonishingly that he has tiny horns sprouting from his head when he goes to the bathroom. He returns to Glenna and asks whether she notices any differences. She casually replies, "Yeah, there are horns on your head." He was shocked, saying why isn't she surprised? As it was not a normal thing, he was worried and didn't pay much attention to Glenna's strange behavior. She only insisted that if she could eat all the cupcakes, all of them, Iggy said she can eat all and don't need to ask him. It was her will. In spite, she didn't like it, but she had to eat all of the boxes, and the reason was she wanted to get fat, as everyone thinks she was trash. She wouldn't have said it if she had been in her senses. What the hell is happening? After this new yet horrifying discovery, Iggy must go to the hospital, and he did so. As soon as he asks for Dr. Reynolds, the assistant proceeds with filling out the form first. While he was out there, a little girl's mother was scolding her daughter for not making noise and shutting her mouth. She suddenly moved toward Iggy and took her heart out to leave her daughter here and divorce her husband to be with her golf partner. Confused, Iggy went to the assistant to return the papers, who started a quarrel with the mother to kick her daughter out of the hospital so she wouldn't have to listen to her screaming. Iggy tried to stop them, but you know it's always better to stay out of two women's fights. He went inside the ward with a nurse who kept on watching his horns while noting down the blood pressure, quickly apologizing. Dr. Reynolds greets Iggy, and Iggy keeps on telling him how he feels about his horns and what could be done about them. The doctor examined Iggy and made an effort to let him feel comfortable. However, the charm of his horns begins to work up on the doctor. He starts to make fun of the situation and spit out his feelings for the nurse. Iggy tells him to concentrate on him and advises doing whatever is necessary to get rid of the horns. Iggy was given anesthesia by the nurse while having his horns sawed. While under anesthesia, he started to remember how they first met in church, and she left her cross there on the seat for him to find and bring it back to her. The next day, the young Iggy, Terry, Glenna, Lee, and Eric are seen running from the grocery store with a bunch of cherry bombs and toys in a trolley to explode at the bay of the river. They bombed a few toys and then a whole chicken with a cherry bomb, which wasn't exploding like others, but as soon as Eric went near to check, it exploded on Eric. Everyone laughed, and Eric got haughty. He held the remaining bomb and wouldn't give it to anyone until they were willing to ride a shopping cart through the log ramp in their underwear. Iggy agrees to do it and rides the cart barefoot off the ramp. Everyone panicked because he was about to drown. He had hit his head and was not swimming back to the surface. Instead, he caught underwood when Lee dove in and pulled him back. Later, Lee fixes the necklace for Iggy and wants to give it to Marin himself. himself, but he exchanges it for his cherry bomb. Iggy returns the cross to her the next time he sees her in church. As they are walking down the road, Terry comes with news that Lee has blown his fingers off with the cherry bomb, and they both rush to see him at the hospital. There, Lee seemed happy seeing Merrin in front of his eyes. Maybe he was a little attracted to her, but on the other side, he was happy to see Iggy happier than ever. The next morning, Iggy brings Merrin to a treehouse in the middle of the woods and shows perks of the home. He then confesses that actually Lee had recovered her cross, not him, but was surprised to hear when Merrin told him that she intentionally dropped the cross there only for Iggy, so they could meet again. Both were happy and became very good friends. Suddenly, Iggy wakes up in his present time and finds the saw stuck in one of the horns. Seems like it was impossible to get rid of them. Depressed, Iggy went to the graveyard, where he was shocked to know that the father of the church wanted him to be dead. On his way back home, one good thing happened. He met Lee, who couldn't see his horns, so he got to hope that it may be all but just a dream. When he enters his parents' house, his mother tells him how she feels about him and wants him gone from their lives for good. That was too hard to tolerate because it was all coming from her mother, who he had previously relied on for support. His mother was forced by the charm of his horns to say the sad truth she has always wanted to say. With a lamented heart, he walks up to his dad and urges him to be completely open with him about how he feels about him. Well, he said that Iggy never did what can make his father proud, but his brother became one of the kinds that the parents wanted. He truly believes that he committed the murder of his innocent girlfriend and that his father was involved in the lab incident that happened a few days back, which allowed him to delete all the evidence in order to protect his son. After realizing the benefits of horns, which may force anyone to confess the truth and whatever is on their heart, he drives to the bar to get some clues about that night when Merrin was murdered. He was followed by a small group of reporters who wanted to interview him, but he used his demonic powers to drive them away by ordering them to fight. Everyone begins to fight, so Iggy flees to a bar where the owner greets him with this rod. Then he questions everyone about what they know about Merrin's murder, with some useless wishes, such as the owner saying he wants to burn this place and obtain insurance. There, a man came out who told him about the new witness who's a waitress in the bar where Iggy last met Merrin. Iggy departs as the bar owner burns down his place. When he gets to his car, Iggy has a flashback of the night when he was going to propose to her and ask Terry to be there. Merrin is seated quietly at the cafe while the owner and waitress welcome Iggy. He meets Merrin, who had come to inform him that she was departing for Los Angeles. But when he heard it, she preferred to go alone rather than with him. Iggy became furious. He needed answers and asked her if she was in love with somebody else. She better preferred to give an empty glare. Iggy left in anger, and Terry just reached there, didn't know what happened. The very next morning, Eric, who's now a police officer, woke him up near the Bay of Docks and asked her when he saw Merrin last time. Hearing this triggers something bad in him, and he said, "It was all my fault." So Eric thought Iggy admitted that he was guilty. He presently arrives at that restaurant and makes a call to Veronica, the waitress who made up the entire tale on her own. She confesses why she lied and how she did it to get popularity since she is so obsessed with being a TV star. Later, he went to his brother who was there that night when he left. He was playing his instruments in the bar, so he sits in the corner where Glenna comes to him, unaware of the incident that happened in the morning. She told him that she had loved him since they were little but now wanted to leave the town. When his brother gets free, he signals him and speaks to him about the waitress spreading lies, on which Terry tells him that she's definitely lying because Merrin left with him that night. Iggy started hitting Terry because he claimed that he didn't see Merrin that night. While they were fighting, we had a flashback from Terry's memory of that night. Terry picked up Merrin and was returning home when he started acting strange. He touched Merrin by telling her that she was unbelievably gorgeous, to which Merrin strictly told him to stop the car and walked away. The last thing Terry remembered was that he woke up in the morning laying in the car, but blood was dripping from his hands and a stone covered with blood was found next to his seat. He rushes to the jungle and finds Merrin dead in the woods, so he wasted every inch of the evidence. Iggy gets violent seeing this and starts hitting him, thinking he has killed his Merrin, but Terry keeps saying he doesn't remember. Eric came with another police officer and arrested him. With growing horns and demonic power, Eric revealed he really wished to put solid blame on Iggy and wanted to send him to jail. Anything that can punish Iggy. Well, in the morning, Lee gets him out of the police station who still can't see those horns on Iggy's head. One more truth was discovered when he found Marin's necklace around Lee's neck. On asking, Lee first denies it, but then says that Marin gave it to him. This agitates him more. Lee gives him half-truths about him and Marin, but Iggy connected it all together that Lee was the other man, and he reminisces some more memories of them together, all three of them. Dishearteningly, he goes to see Marin's father, where we notice a snake continuously following him. Marin's father was very angry at him and doesn't want to deal with him in any way. He just wants him to leave. Later, he went to a vacant warehouse and made an attempt to get rid of his horns, which had made his life hellish due to the cruel truths that came from everyone he trusted around. There he noticed a lot of snakes coming towards him. He got afraid, but one of the snakes curled around his neck and befriended him so he could feel more power. Realizing the newly awakened powers, he plans to get revenge on the people who did wrong to him and her. Marin now begins with Veronica and lets snakes bite her, destroying her beauty. Later, he is about to cross the state boundary when the police officers came behind him, so he starts to manipulate them and lets them do what they have always wanted to do to each other. Heading to his home, he met her brother again, who claims to be his big brother but hasn't done anything of the sort. He is angry at him for seeing Marin dead and not reporting to the police only to save his skin, so he forces him to eat all the drugs he has taken out and eat them up right there, under the charm of Iggy's horn. He does and has all of the drugs and feels the same fear Marin has that night. His heart became heavy when he punished his brother, but this way, forcing him to face his demons, was the only help he could do to him. The next day, Iggy meets Lee at the docks bay, where he tries to get the truth from Lee, but he is still confused. In a fit of his anger, Iggy takes the cross off Lee, and there he sees horns on Iggy's head. He was only unable to see demonic Iggy because of that holy crucifix. Lee revealed that his stupidest mistake was saving Iggy's life once in childhood, and he still regrets it. Iggy tries to kill him with the plow fork. He touches him to see everything that happened that night. Marin told him that she thinks Iggy is going to propose to her, but she can't marry him, and asked Lee to meet her at the dinner. He followed Marin and Terry into the woods and found Marin alone, where he tried to calm her because she was so distressed about breaking up with Iggy. Lee told her that he loved her and he knew Marin loved him too, but when she said she loved Iggy more than the world, he slapped her in the face. Iggy backs off from Lee out of emotions, but Lee got him and continued the story of how he killed her. He tries to force her and take advantage of her, but she rejects him, and during that rejected anger, Lee kills her and frames Terry. While Iggy tries to digest it when Lee attacks, knocks him on the ground, snatches him, put him in his car, and sets him on fire. He tried to escape, but it is useless. Iggy starts and pushes the car to the water. The news of Iggy's killing himself circulates, and the news saddens his family, mostly Terry. But Iggy returned in fully devil form. He went to see Marin's father again and told him who killed her. While his father's anger calms down, he returns her cross to Iggy. When Iggy wears it, he turns back to human. This all was the curse from God when he peed on the memorial the other night and denied the God powers. But for his goodwill and deeds, he was given back his human life and returned to his homeless human body. The next thing he did is he went to their treehouse, where he found a letter from Marin in Morse code and discovered that she was stricken with cancer like her mom, but she doesn't want to end up like her and leave him alone like her mother left her dad in pain, so she'd better pretend to break up with him. He cried and cried. Iggy visits his brother and tells him it was Lee who killed Marin. He then met Lee, who had forgotten everything that happened between them. Iggy takes him to the treehouse and tries to push the truth out of his mouth. Then Eric comes, who brings the shotgun and aims at Lee. Lee tries to buy himself time and then dodges everyone, grabs the gun, and aims at Iggy, while his brother tries to dodge it from him but gets shot in the leg. Iggy grabs his fork and tries to push the gun out of his hand, but Eric comes in front of the gun and he gets his head blown apart. While Lee takes hold of the gun and throws Iggy aside, Iggy removes the necklace and becomes the devil one last time. Lee shoots at him but with no effect. Seeing Iggy turn to the devil himself, he drops to the ground, grabs his fork, and pushes it inside the Iggy twice, on which Iggy thrusts his head and a horn of Iggy opens Lee's gut and he starts to bleed out. The snakes gather around him and grabs him. He ends up there. At the same time, Iggy gets weak and his brother lies down. 1 second after another, Iggy was turning into stone. Oh my God, he died and joins Marin in the afterlife.